Okay, so I got a big one to open up for you today. Today it is the 1988 remastered six pack of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Excuse me. Got Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael, Splinter, and the Shredder. I was able to get a good discount on this because Target was having like a thing on their website, on the app, or the red circle, whatever the thing's called, their rewards program, where like you could get like 25% off of like any toy purchase. So I'd seen this one a while back and was like, oh, well, I guess this now would be a good time to do that, wouldn't it? So I went ahead and got that, and go ahead and open this up on the side. Here's the artwork on the back. Got a big picture of the boys and Splinter going up against the Shredder. You can see that like they put some effort into giving us a nice box with little cutouts in the front to represent various things, like the Shredder standing on the elevator. Raphael is swinging down from the ladder. Donatello is peeking up through the periscope. And I do have one of the vintage turtles to compare, because everybody knows that my favorite Ninja Turtle is Raphael. So, of course, the vintage figure that I have is Donatello. I don't know where my Raphael figure is. The worst part is when I was going through my bin of Ninja Turtles figures, I could not find my NECA Michelangelo. So I don't know where that guy is. So, and just for fun, I went ahead and pulled out a couple other Donatellos. There's the Nickelodeon version of Donatello. I really like these figures. They're really cool. And you can see that this is not the Boast. It's kind of bent up from being in the storage. But this is not the bow staff that this Donatello originally came with. This is actually the bow staff that came with this bootleg movie star Donatello. So there's some Donatellos there. And we'll compare this Donatello with the new one. Let's go ahead and get them out of the package. All right. And we can have a look at some of the other packaging within this set. Like I said, they put a lot of effort into that. Look, you can see like there's an open manhole, some old tires, some ooze all over the place, some bricks, an empty soda can, a couple of fire hydrants. Like I think this one down here is just a wheel to turn something. So, but there's where the elevator is. It even matches up there, and you can see that the fire hydrant does match up with the periscope that Donatello has. The ladder doesn't quite line up with the manhole cover, but can't win them all, can we? Let's go ahead and get it all out of here. And we got a lot of figures to go over. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to take the blister out, and we can see the back here. There's the boys' bedroom with their bunk beds and a messy drawer with lots of clothes in there. And like, they don't even wear clothes. Well, like, what do they need that for? Bobby Wald said, I just saw the Godzilla crossover Leo Ninja Turtle at Target. Yeah, I saw, I forget which one it was that I saw. I think it was Raphael / Rodan. I think I saw that one. But the Leonardo one definitely looks like the coolest one. But he gets to be Godzilla, so of course he's the coolest one. And they have this depth, I think it has a depth charge kind of thing that came with the original playset. And of course, April O'Neil over here on the tube, where one of the boys can relax over here and be watching the news. So, and we can get a better look at this elevator piece here. It says, danger, keep out, toes behind panel. And the Shredder's standing on that. Let's go ahead and start with the Shredder, because I think that he is going to be, unfortunately, the weakest of the figures in this set. And oh god, there are so many rubber tabs holding all this stuff in. They vex me. They vex me. They truly do. And this one, there's one around each of his wrists and one around his waist. And it looks like one big long rubber tab. If we look underneath the elevator there, one big long rubber tab that goes all the way across both legs. But at least since it's a big long one that goes across both legs. It's easier to take out, isn't it? And then he's got like another rubber tab on the across the hand and the sword. And I'm afraid this hand's just going to be all bent out of shape because of that. And the sword is actually in his hand. A lot of these characters, it looks like all of them have their weapons in their hands with like these little teeny tiny baggies over them, probably to make sure the paint doesn't get scuffed on these weapons. But there's the Shredder's katana. If it seems kind of small to you, well, we're going to get into all that, aren't we? So hopefully Shredder should just come right out of here. All right, let's get him aside. And he's got a couple of more weapons in here. He's got a couple of the classic style fist daggers. But you'll notice when I pull them out, they are a little bit smaller than you might expect. And here's the one that, like, whenever the boys came with one of these, I like to pretend it was a piece of pizza. And I know I'm not alone in that. I'm sure some of you out there watching remember that. So here's the shorter sword. Get that out of there. And a lot of times, like ninja or samurai would have a long sword and a short sword. So it makes sense that he has both a long sword and a short sword. You can see both of those next to each other. And set those aside. And let's go ahead and talk about the Shredder. Now, I want to say that this is actually like not a badly made figure. I'm going to say that. It has some good qualities to it. I think it's mostly well sculpted, although you can see on mine the helmet got kind of bent up in the back. I can probably fix that with a hairdryer later. He's got a really stiff plastic cape, and I wish he had a soft goods cape, but that would have been a lot better. And you can see, like, anybody who's familiar with the original Shredder figure from the original vintage line, you're going to recognize the color scheme to him. He's got no shirt. He's got black pants, although he does not have the purple trunks that the original figure had. Purple wraps around the feet, purple wraps around the forearms, and then blue, not silver, blue armor. Not even metallic blue, just regular blue. But this is how the original figure was colored for some reason. I don't know why. And he's even got like some of the texture sculpted into the mask that to me looked like maybe they thought his mask was actually made out of fabric rather than being a plate. But you can see that texture over underneath the cheekbones. But one thing that you'll notice that's way different with this version of the Shredder is he's much shorter and much smaller, and he's about the height of just one of the regular Ninja Turtles. He's barely any taller than them. You can see that, like Shredder. Like the original Shredder figure was much taller in terms of proportion to the Ninja Turtle. Not actually taller, because they made the figure kind of squatting down, like so they could fit him in the package. So he's in kind of a crouching position. I would have much rather seen a Shredder that was the same size as that figure, but with this kind of articulation, which would make him much taller than the other turtles. But let's go ahead and talk about his articulation. So Shredder can rotate his head all the way around. He can look up and down about that far. There is a little bit of up and down movement, a little bit of side to side movement. Not a whole heck of a lot, but there is some there. Of course, the arms rotate all the way around the shoulders, and you can see they raise up to the sides about that far. Shredder has a single joint of articulation at the elbow, which bends in that far and rotates all the way around. Shredder has wrist joints that rotate all the way around. And one of them is a gripping hand, just a plain gripping hand, not the kind of two-finger gripping hand like the original figure came with. And the other hand is in sort of that mystical kung fu hand position like Mark Taylor intended when he designed him. So there's that. Shredder can rotate all the way around to the waist. He can ninja kick up about that far, kick back about that far. Can't quite do the splits. His waist his hip articulation is kind of weird. There, I got him into a split there. Shredder has a single joint of articulation at the knee, which bends forward actually ridiculously far, bends back about that far, rotates all the way around, and then rotates all the way around the ankles. No up or down movement. It's not a ball joint. It just rotates all the way around. So decent enough articulation, Not like on the level of, say, like a McFarlane or even a Masters of the Universe Origins, but decent enough. But like I said, the main problem with this guy is he's just too tiny. The Shredder should be much taller than this. If this same figure was like, if you imagine him larger, if he was like maybe like an inch taller, that would be a great Shredder figure, I would think. I'm sure some people would be very uncomfortable with don't like the pins in the shoulders, and they do seem like very prominent just because he's got those bare shoulders, and like it just makes the pins stand out that much more than they might have if he was wearing a shirt or something like that. But as it is, Shredder, I'm afraid to say, and you know how much I love the Shredder, this is the weakest figure in this set. So that's all there is to it. And since they had his hand with the weapon kind of rubber banded in there, it does fit in there kind of loosely. And the sword is actually kind of decently proportioned to him, but we're going to see when we get Leonardo out of here. It's not quite as long as Leonardo's sword. So let's set the Shredder aside for the moment. And since I opened up the Shredder, it seems like it'd be appropriate next to move on to Splinter, and then we can do all four of the boys at the same time. So does that make sense? I think that makes sense. So Splinter, on the other hand, looking at him, I think they did a fantastic job with this Splinter, and I'm really excited to get this guy out of the package. He looks great. Now, obviously, Splinter and Shredder, fortunately in the case of Splinter, and unfortunately in the case of Shredder, these are both like new sculpts. The turtles themselves, they look to be more based on the vintage Ninja Turtles figures, although I do notice some differences in the sculpting, and we will get into all of that. But first, let's talk about Splinter, because I do really like this Splinter figure, and I feel like he's worth talking about. And this is probably going to wind up being actually my favorite figure in the set, I think. Unless these turtles surprise me by being like even cooler than I think they're going to be. These are going to be some great Ninja Turtles figures, I can tell. These are not the same ones that were sold separately with the rooftop diorama. They've got smoother skin textures, more like what the original toys were set up for. So if you're somebody who did not like the skin textures that were put onto those single carded ones, well, here's a chance to get some that are a little closer to the designs of the vintage figures. So I personally thought those were really cool, and I definitely want to pick those up eventually, but haven't gotten around to it yet. So this Splinter is not very much based on the original Splinter figure. He's much smaller. And Splinter should be smaller. Splinter should be smaller than the boys. Like he's a rat. He's a little small guy. So and I do think that again he's at least taller than Splinter. But again, the Shredder should be much taller than Splinter, like much taller than even that. And it looks like he only comes with he's got another accessory in there. I'm missing it because it was behind the ladder. So he does have one more accessory. There's actually two more accessories, as we'll see once I get this out of here. I'm trying to get it out without damaging that ladder, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to because, of course, they have a rubber tab holding this in. The dreaded, infamous rubber tabs. Oh, how I hate them. Oh, how I despise them. But we got it out. All right, cool. And there is like a little ninja star over there next to the bottom of the ladder, but I don't think that goes to Splinter. I just think that those ninja stars go with whoever. But Splinter comes with his cane, which, just like with the original Splinter figure, has a hidden blade in it. Sword cane. Very cool. And Splinter has a bow and arrow, which is very nice. And the arrow is a separate piece in this version, and it does kind of just clip in there. So unlike the original one where the arrow is molded in, this one actually has a separate arrow, so you can have him like pretend to fire it or whatever. And it is important, I think, to have the bow and arrow with Splinter, because like I remember him using the bow and arrow in the movie. I think it was the part 2. He uses the bow and arrow. Is he going to be able to hold it well with this kimono? It holds it pretty well, I think. So, can we get him into a good archery position, though? Let's put it in the other hand. I think it's supposed to go in the other hand when we do that. And see what kind of archery position we can get Splinter into. It looks like that's about the best I'm going to be able to do with it. Even with the added articulation, it's kind of hard to, it's always challenging to get like a good realistic archery pose with an action figure, and he's not quite there. He's got some good articulation to him, but he's not quite there. And it doesn't help that the way they got these robe sleeves molded is they swoop forward a little bit. So that's going to kind of get in the way of him holding the bow and arrow. But that's not the only accessory he comes with. He comes with the cane, and it is, like I said, a sword cane. So we can get him into put the one half of the cane in one hand and the other half in the other, the blade in the sheath. And it looks like he's just drawn his sword cane. So that's very cool. And of course, the way that Master Splinter usually holds his cane is as an actual cane. So let's go ahead and get him into that position. And there we go. So ready to instruct the turtles in the way of the ninja. Or, any other advice that they need. He was always a good father figure to the boys. All right, so let's talk about the articulation on this guy. So Splinter's head rotates all the way around. You can look up about that far, look down about that far, tilt his head kind of quickly from side to side. He's got eyeballs painted in. Like I said, the original Splinter figure was more based on the Mirage Comics design. This one is more based on his animated series design. Earth Dude is here, and he says, "We Batmen." And MHD says, "Hello, middle of the night review, huh?" Well, almost. Here on my time, it is 5:15 in the morning, but I haven't gone to bed yet. So it's the middle of my night. But for most people in my time zone, it would be very early in the morning. So yeah, pretty close. So yeah, his arms rotate all the way around the shoulders, and they move up about that far. He does have a single joint of articulation at the elbow, which bends back about that far, bends forward about that far, and then that rotates all the way around. And then the wrists rotate all the way around. And is there any kind of torso articulation? Does not seem to be. He's got this rubber kimono piece. He does not have soft goods like with the Shredder, but I don't think that this inhibits Splinter as much, and it does give us a little more cartoon accuracy to his robe, because now he can actually have sleeves, whereas the original one, it was more like a sort of a tabard that kind of like almost like a sandwich sign that went over the whole body, and then you held it together with the belt. It wasn't actually sewn together. It was just one piece of fabric cut out. The tail rotates all the way around. That's another piece where I think it'd be better if it had like a little more movement to it, like if it was ball jointed. But no, it's just a simple cut. Splinter can do the splits no problem. Much better, much easier than Shredder. He actually does have a ball and socket there, which you can kind of see a little bit. Splinter has a single joint of articulation at the knee, which bends in about that far and then rotates all the way around. And it looks to me like this shin is actually backwards. You can see that his calf muscles are facing towards the front. So I'll fix that real quick. And Shredder has nice ball jointed ankles. So they point down about that far, point up about that far, and then rotate all around where the foot meets the ankle. And MHC says, "Oh, okay, I thought it was closer to 3 a.m. Well, you're not too far off. So, and I will be going to sleep as soon as this review is over. So I would like it if they'd had a little more cartoon accuracy to the robe. You know those little emblems that he had on each shoulder with the 3 circles? I think that would have been a nice detail to add, but he does not have that. You can see that they've got some good texture to the robe. Very cool. And he is a tiny little guy. And again, let's look at him next to the vintage Donatello. A little bit shorter than the Turtles. Not a whole lot shorter, but a little bit. He might be better proportioned with the NECA comic book figures that I have, so I might actually stand him with those. But I really like this Splinter figure. They did a great job with Splinter, and I think this is probably my favorite Splinter figure that I've ever had so far. But then again, maybe the movie NECA Splinter figure. He's pretty awesome. But it's pretty close. I will say that. So Playmates did a great job with Splinter. I will say that obviously it being NECA, the paint applications are much better on that one than this one. This one's a child's plaything, so he looks a little more child's plaything. Earth Dude says, 2 weeks in on my Forgotten Prisoner model kit, it's going good. Well, I'm happy to hear that. And I would like to see it when it's finished. I think that would be really cool. All right, so we've got the boys' arch nemesis out of the way with the Shredder. We've got the boys' master, their sensei, out of the way with Master Splinter. So let's move on to the boys themselves. And I'm going to start with Michelangelo, who is my fourth favorite Ninja Turtle. Don't feel too bad for Michelangelo. I still love him. I still think he's great. But somebody's got to be your fourth favorite Ninja Turtle. You can love them all. Nobody loves them all equally. And, that's just how it's going to be. I'm a Raphael kind of guy. So he's going to be the one we save for last. We're going to go Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, and Raphael, because that's how I roll. All right, so we'll go ahead and get him out. And since Michelangelo is going to be the one that we start with, he'll be the one that I talk about the articulation with. Also, there's one more of these damnable rubber tabs. All right. So, yeah, I will talk about the articulation and such with Michelangelo. Now, this does look very much like the Michelangelo figure that I remember from all the way back in the day. Despite what I said about Michelangelo being my fourth favorite Ninja Turtle, he actually was the first of the boys that I found when the figures came out. So he was the first Ninja Turtle figure that I bought because he was the first one I found. But you better believe next week when I found the rest of when I found Leonardo and Raphael, I picked them up immediately. So, and then I had to find Donatello later on. Earth Dude says, "Remember the I Like Turtles kid?" No, actually, I don't. I'll have to look that up later. But he does look very much like the way I remember the Michelangelo figure looking. Obviously, he's got some extra articulation. You see, he's got those pins in the shoulders, which unfortunately, late Playmates, I guess, hadn't figured out how to lick yet. They hadn't figured out how to solve that problem. His belt seems to be on permanently, like it's not intended to come off. You can see that, like, unlike the original toys, there's no peg in the middle of the belt buckle. That's just a solid belt buckle. And let's go ahead and talk about Michelangelo's articulation. So you can look up about that far, look down about that far, tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, rotate the head all the way around. I guess when he's tilted his head from side to side, he's wondering where the hell the pizza dude is. Pizza dude's got 30 seconds. So Michelangelo can raise his arms up to the side about that far. He's got a single joint of articulation at the elbow, bends in about that far, so not quite 90 degrees. It does rotate all the way around, and then the wrist joints rotate all the way around. These aren't quite up to the articulation, I don't think, that a lot of the modern figures are, like, say the G.I. Joe Classified, obviously, or the McFarlane figures. All those have a lot more articulation, but it doesn't even have quite as much articulation as a Masters of the Universe Origins, which I would figure they could at least match those, but apparently not. Earth Dude says, "Oh man, you're gonna laugh." Well, I love to laugh. So I'll try to remember to look that up later. Winning Hostess pies, name drop, dude. Love those pies. I love the. Have I talked about how much I love those Ninja Turtles pies? Yeah. Bobby Wall just mentioned them. The one thing I remember the most about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are those bootleg Hostess pies that had the green ooze filling and tasted horrific. I think you mean terrific. They were awesome. I loved them. I wish they still made them. Like, even if they don't have the Ninja Turtle license anymore, just call them something else. I don't care. But But yeah, so where was I? Okay, no torso articulation whatsoever, but our boy's got a shell. So what are you gonna do? And then he's got that kind of weird sort of articulation at the hips again, like Shredder has, unfortunately. But it looks like it rotates all the way around like that, and then there's a hinge here. So you got to kind of manipulate it to get into whatever kind of position you want it to. Unfortunately, they should have done the ball jointed hips like they did with Splinter. Those are much better hips. So yeah, I'm gonna say it right now. Splinter's the best figure in this set. These aren't bad Ninja Turtles figures. These are pretty good Ninja Turtles figures. They're not on the level of like NECA, obviously, but what is? As far as Ninja Turtles figures, they're the kings nowadays. Sorry, Playmates. I mean, you're making good kids' toys here, so they're good for what they are. I'm not complaining about that, but NECA is still like the masters as far as that goes. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, he's got a single joint of articulation at the knee. Bends forward about that far, bends back about that far, rotates all the way around, and then he's got a single joint of articulation at the ankle that rotates all the way around. Unfortunately, does not point down or up like the way that Splinter's does. I don't know why Splinter gets such great articulation, whereas like his pupils do not. So anyway, and I want to point out that like the original Michelangelo, remember his teeth were kind of gritted on one side and his mouth was closed on the other, but they did paint in white there as if you can see his teeth. What Earth Dude asks, what company did the comic version of the Turtles? Well, the original Ninja Turtle comics were published by Mirage Studios, self-published by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. Mirage Studios just so named because the studio itself was a mirage. You can learn more about that in the Toys That Made Us episode and the Turtle Power documentary and several other places. But yeah, this was kind of an inside joke that they called it Mirage Studios because the whole studio was a mirage, a facade, and they were just goofing around in their living room when they came up with these Ninja Turtles, just trying to make each other laugh, and wound up doing a single issue of a comic book about it. And for some reason it sold really well, so they did more. They just kept doing them, and then there was toys and cartoons and all kinds of stuff. And then the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventure comics was published by Archie, but it was still produced by Mirage Studios. Eastman and Laird produced those by hiring other artists and writers to draw them. But anyway, that gives us a look at the articulation on these guys. So we'll go ahead and move on to the rest of the figures. I guess first I'll talk some about the paint job on this guy. He's got that kind of dark sort of forest green sort of skin that I remember Michelangelo's having. Very bright orange, almost kind of like hazard cones. Excuse me, for the bandanas. Dang. Elbows, knee pads, all that kind of stuff. So good job on the paint. He looks really cool. Let's move on to, oh wait, almost forgot. We got the nunchucks to talk about. Fellow Chuckeray got that little baggie again, like I'm talking about. And then both of these down here are just held in with rubber tabs. So I don't have another baggie to worry about. I'm just going to cut these rubber tabs and we'll take the nunchucks out. Now, I'm sure any of you who had these original toys when you were kids, remember they all came on like a weapons tree. It was decorated to look kind of like a weapons rack. So Michelangelo's nunchuck and that was made entirely out of plastic, two plastic sticks held together by a plastic cord, all one solid piece. But these actually have a metal chain and you can swing them around however you want. So let's see if I can get them to hold these nunchucks. I'm pretty sure in this hand it should be fine, because they didn't have like a weapon in a baggie rubber banded into it. But I'm not sure how well he's going to hold it in the other hand. That looks like it'll be a job for the hairdryer to soften his hand back up. I do think the nunchuck sticks are a little shorter than I remember those nunchucks as being with the original toys. But they got a metal chain on them, so I can't complain about them too much. And then, of course, he's got the rings in the back, the little loops that can hold the nunchucks when he's not using them, so they can be stored back there. And that's why I didn't lose too many of these weapons when I was a kid. Now, of course, like I said, I don't have the original Donatello's staff, but that wasn't my original Donatello. That came from somewhere else. I do have the original Raphael. I just don't know where he is. He wasn't in my box of stuff, my bin that I had all these characters in, that I was keeping my Ninja Turtles in. And like I said, I'm missing my NECA Michelangelo, so that's just very frustrating. So these belts don't quite seem as rubbery as the older belts, so it's a little bit more of a struggle to get these nunchucks in there, but they will go in there. And he's got orange handles. They're a little more of a dull orange than the bright orange that's on his bandana and his elbow pads and all that. There we go. And like I said, they're just... This thing probably needs to be stretched out somewhat. That's what she said. All right. So... But yeah, I remember when I first read the Ninja Turtles comics, a friend of mine in school had them, and he'd lent them to me. And he didn't have the original comics. He actually had the trade paperbacks that were published by First Comics, and those were in color. So that was the first time I ever saw any of these characters. And I remember when I saw on TV that they were doing a cartoon of the Ninja Turtles, I was like, how are they going to make a cartoon out of that? It's so violent and dark, and they found a way. Earth Dude says that belt gonna rub the paint off the chucks. Yeah, that's something that you might wanna concern yourselves with, and likewise, being gripped in the hands might do the same thing. But that's just the nature of the beast, I guess. But yeah, that's Michelangelo down. 3 more to go. Let's move on to Donatello. Now, like I was talking about with the when I was showing off the original the original Donatello, and the movie star bootleg that I have, a lot of the times they have Donatello come with 2 bow staffs, and you're used to seeing in the cartoons and the comics, Michelangelo swinging around 2 nunchucks. Raphael obviously has 2 sai. Leonardo has 2 katana blades, but usually, I don't even know how you would fight with 2 bow staffs. But Donatello still comes with 2 bow staves anyway, probably because all the other characters come with 2 weapons. Shouldn't Donatello come with 2 weapons also? And that was a good thing for me because, like I said, when I since I didn't have the bow staff for this Donatello, I was able to take one of the bootleg bow staffs and give him that. It's the same sculpt, even if it's painted different. But here's Donatello's bow staff. He only comes with 1 in this instance, and it's a fairly rigid kind of plastic. It's not like a flexible rubbery material like we're used to. Earth Dude says those are the chucks we wanted back in the day. Hell yeah, I would have loved to have had them with like actual chains like that. That would have been sweet. So we just had to imagine him spinning around, and you can see that the wraps they have on there are purple. They like to do the color coding even with the weapons these days. But like I pointed out with Michelangelo, the original weapons were all molded on the same tree, and they were all the same shade of like reddish brown with no paint applications whatsoever, which worked out pretty well for Michelangelo and Donatello. I didn't mind their weapons being brown, but it's a little odd when you're dealing with bladed weapons like sai and katana. So I'm missing still need to get a couple of rubber tabs here. So Donatello, and this thing fell out. I suppose that was inevitable with the periscope. Donatello, all the boys had like a different skin color. They all had like different shades of green for their skin color. And Donatello was the one who got stuck with like the least green shade of green of all of them. I mean, you can look at this guy, and yeah, he's an older figure. He's maybe a little yellowy in some parts, but he never was quite a true green. And our new Donatello actually looks less green on the screen to me, but in person he looks a little more green. It's kind of weird how stuff shows up on the camera and with different lighting and everything. Oh, and this is not the belt that came with the original Donatello either, because you can see he has a purple buckle. This is actually a belt that would have come off of the wacky action Donatello. He was the one that came with a purple belt, but somehow this Donatello wound up with a purple belt anyway. But here's going to be like the closest we can get, since he's the one vintage figure that I have to comparing the aesthetics. And you can see that they this is a slightly different face sculpt. He's still got the same sort of gritted teeth, and the lip. You see where the lip kind of meets in the middle, where the snout kind of pokes down. The original Donatello's eyes, you can see, are slightly more triangular, whereas this guy's eyes are a little more rounded. It looks like they tried to make the eyes look a little more the same on these figures, whereas they had different shapes of eyes on the original figures. So these aren't quite the same shape of eyes that Donatello had. Donatello had one of the better head sculpts, I think. I'm not sure who had the better head sculpt between him and Raphael, but I think I would rank them Donatello and Raphael having the best head sculpts. Then Michelangelo would be the third place, and Leonardo, poor Leonardo, is bringing up the rear because he is sad, Leonardo. So, but yeah, the paint job is pretty accurate to the original figures. You can see the purple matches up really well. The yellow is a bit more bright on the new guy versus the old guy. You can see this is a little more sort of dull, and this one's a little more bright. And if we look at the back, they both have about the same color of dark green shell. You can see that the original Donatello, though, has space to... Actually, it's broken off on mine. So he's got space to hold a bow staff. He's got space to hold a bow staff. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a... I guess it broke off, or maybe the wacky action version never came with the bow staff holster. But that's okay. He can just hold it. That's fine. So let's go ahead and have a look at that. The bow staff. And you can see that this bow staff is much longer. It's almost like this one's only about like maybe 3/4 of the length of the new one. So much longer. So let's go ahead and get the bow staff in his hands. And of course, this is from the neck down. This is the same figure as Michelangelo, so we don't need to go into the articulation on this guy. We just did that with Michelangelo. And go ahead and see if I can get both hands onto this bow staff. It is a two-handed weapon, which again, not sure why he had two of them. Maybe just in case he broke it, But here is Donatello with his bow staff. So I like the Donatello figure slightly more than the Michelangelo figure, just because his hand isn't stretched out. But I mean, like I said, they're basically the same figure with two different heads. But I like the Donatello head sculpt slightly more. I do like the coloring better on Michelangelo, but again, this is holdover from the original figures. Donatello was never green enough in the original figure, and Michelangelo always had a better shade of green. Let's have a look at him, since I have him handy. The bootleg movie star turtle, and kind of a pale green they went with on the Nickelodeon figures. Again, those all had different skin colors too, but at least this one was more green than poor old Donatello got stuck with. So let's go ahead and set him aside, and we'll move on to Leonardo. And Leonardo is my second favorite Ninja Turtle. And of course, he is the leader of the group, not Raphael. And of course, they were transformed from the norm by the nuclear goop. That is something that Partners in Crime got correct. We'll just pull the hand out. It's in the little baggie. It just slid right out. I'm not even going to fool the rubber tabs on that. But he's still got this one around his hand. And I can get that one out just as easily, too. Man, I hope he's going to be able to hold on to these katanas. I hope that his hands aren't too stretched out of shape. Thankfully, Raphael is only holding one of his. Donatello wasn't holding his weapon at all, which is why he seems to grip his the best. Michelangelo held it just fine in one hand, but the other one was still kind of stretched out. Now, I'm going to say this. Out of all the boys, Leonardo is definitely the most improved. Because, as I pointed out before, Leonardo on the original figure had that sad facial expression. And here, like I said, since they made the eyes a little more samey on all these guys, all their eyes look pretty much the same. It's just the mouths that are in different expressions. He doesn't have that sad look that the original Leonardo had. Everybody looks at him and is like, why is he so sad? Well, not anymore. Now he looks badass. And Donatello and, I didn't talk about this before, but Donatello and Leonardo both have the extra straps attached to their belts because they've got, they've got more stuff that they carry around on their back because Leonardo's got his katanas and Donatello's got his bow staff, and those are a little more weighty than sai, which go on the front anyway, or nunchucks. So, and unfortunately, like I said, since his hands were holding the katana with the rubber band and everything, you can see how loose that those are in there. And hopefully I can hit those with the hairdryer and soften them back up, and he'll grip them appropriately. And you know what? I forgot to put the bow staff and Donatello's sheath on the back, but we'll go ahead and do that with Leonardo real quick, especially since I want to make sure that I don't lose these, and holding them in his hands is just not going to cut it. So I probably put this in backwards. I should have put it in the other way around, but one of these sheaths is slightly lower than the other, so it's kind of interesting that they did that. Anywho, go ahead and put that in there. And those fit in there quite nicely. And you can see, again, they color-coded the handles to be blue, because blue is Leonardo's color. And the swords themselves are molded in a slightly metallic, not overly metallic silver, but kind of a slightly metallic gray. They got enough metallic to them that I think it looks good. Anyway, like I said, Leonardo, I think, is the most improved over the original Leonardo figure because of the expression, just because of that. So let's go ahead and move on to last, and certainly not least. This is a case where I saved the best for last. My favorite of the Ninja Turtles, Raphael. We got to open him up. And again, he's just got rubber bands all over him. And he also has this ladder in front of him. And I'm trying not to tear up the cardboard pieces. I'm trying to keep those in as good a shape as I can. So it's held on here with like some glue or double-sided tape or something. And I tried to see if I could peel it up, but I did wind up kind of tearing the cardboard a little bit there. But not so much that it messed it up. It still looks fine. But the back of the cardboard is kind of torn. And, if you're going to tear your cardboard, that's probably the place to do it. So I'm getting all these rubber tabs. He's got one around each calf, one around his hands, and this one with the sai kept in there, and the plastic baggie. Let's get that out of there. Now, like I said, these weapons all seem to be like new sculpts. They don't look like the sculpts that came with the original figures at all as far as the weapons go. The figures themselves look reasonably like the original figures. Like I said, there's some obviously some liberties taken here and there. And the original Ninja Turtles all had different sculpts, I believe. Like, I don't think like any of their parts were shared in between each other, which would have been like the easiest way to do it, obviously. And there are some other weapons in here, like some throwing stars and things. There's a throwing star taped over here, but not as many as you might think. There's none like the commas or anything like that, unfortunately. I'm not gonna fool with that throwing star right now. You can see the throwing star in there. What am I even going to do with that thing, though? It would be nice if they had a fist dagger for Raphael, because he does actually have the little pouch in the back to hold the fist dagger. And Raphael was the only one who actually had an extra space for one of those extra weapons, other than like, pegs for throwing stars or something like that. So, but they didn't have any other things for like the comma or anything like that. And you can see he's got his sheaths on the front, like I was talking about before. And here's what Raphael's sai looks like. And again, not the same sculpt that we had in the original ones. This one looks a little bit more like the Nickelodeon versions of the sai. He should be able to hold it just fine in this hand. I don't know about the other hand yet, because like I said, that was the one where they had the weapon rubber banded in there. Never do that, toy companies. That never works out well. But let's see how well he can hold it anyway. A little more snugly than Leonardo's katanas. But I wish I had him to compare, but I don't know where my original Raphael is, unfortunately. But I will say that his, I feel like, is the most accurate to the original sculpt. But like I said, I think like his was probably like the best head sculpt anyway. So that's a good thing. Donatello, like I said, he's got one that's almost as good of a head sculpt as the original Raphael, at least about equal to it. I think it'd be one of those that I would say is the absolute best. I'm not sure which one, but I'm guessing since Playmates did alter Donatello's eyes, and Raphael looks pretty much exactly as I remember him. He might be a little different too, but pretty much exactly as I remember him. I'm going to say that's Playmates, the design team at Playmates telling us which one they think had the best head sculpt, and it's my boy Raphael. And now I'm going to set one of these sais aside. Oh, that's the sai! Then it is gone. But I can get it back. I can get it back. Raphael, let it go. I love that movie. All right, so let's go ahead and it does fit snugly in that hand and a little loose in the other hand, but it still fits better than Leonardo's katana, at least. So we can go ahead and see what they look like when we put them in these sheaths. And there we go. So yeah, looks really cool. Anyway, this is a great set of figures, and even despite some of the flaws that they have, and I think the articulation definitely could have been better on Raphael, on the Ninja Turtles themselves, and I think that so many things could have been better on the Shredder. I love the Shredder. He's like one of my favorite all-time villains, and you guys know that I've probably opened up more figures of the Shredder than any other character from Ninja Turtles on this channel. And that's because, for a lot of reasons, but, I tend to be a little hesitant to buy like a single Ninja Turtle figure, because I don't want to like have all the other ones sell out and then I never get a chance to get the rest of them. But since I was able to get all four of the boys in this single set, I actually had some Ninja Turtle figures to open up for you guys, some actual Ninja Turtles, and I think the only Ninja Turtles I've ever opened on this show, besides these that I opened just now, are the Turtles of Grayskull versions. So these are the only kind of classic default Ninja Turtles figures that I've ever opened on this show. I've done a lot of other supporting characters, a lot of the villains. Like I said, we've done a lot of Shredder figures. We've done Casey Jones. We've done Slash. But this is like the first time I think that I've ever opened up the four boys in kind of a default form, not just some crossover version of them. And I gotta say that these are like when I think of definitive versions of the Ninja Turtles, these are some of the ones that come to mind. Is these original the original Playmates figure designs, where they were drawing very heavily off of those original Mirage concepts, but they had a lot of innovations that they added to the boys that I really liked. Like I love them having the different color headbands. I know a lot of the comic book fans that be really hardcore about it and really just absolutist, about like oh, they should all have the red headbands. But I think it works better to have the different colored headbands because then you immediately know what character you're looking at. So these all look great. I love these figures. They did a great job on them. These aren't some of the best Ninja Turtles figures that I've opened up, even with the little nitpicks I've had about them. Oh, I don't think I pointed out also, there's like extra texture to the shell, kind of a little more like how the movie Star Turtles have that little extra detail to the shell like they had in the movie. But if you compare with the original Donatello here, you can see that like they've got some scuff marks and things like that on there, but they don't have the same sort of texture like these guys have. So, and Shredder, the less said about this guy, the better. They could have done such a better job with this. And I think, honestly, the Shredder that I'm going to display with these figures is not going to be that Shredder. It's going to be this Shredder, which, I opened up a few episodes back. But like I said, I've got a few of these that I bought when they were on clearance. But this is going to be the Shredder that I stand with those. And I was already kind of thinking about taking one, because I bought them for customs. I was thinking about doing this paint job with one of these figures, and I think that would just look so cool. So that's something that I'm very seriously considering doing. So, but as good as the Ninja Turtles figures were, and as awful as the Shredder was, I gotta say that the rock star of this set, the one that made the set worth buying, is Splinter. I love this Splinter figure. This is probably my favorite figure of Splinter that I've ever owned, and this is probably about as close to definitive as you can get. Like I said, the only real competition for this would have been the NECA movie version of Splinter. So it's a tough choice between the two of them now. And obviously NECA is going to be a lot higher quality in a lot of ways just because it's NECA and that's the nature of the beast. And this is a toy that's made for children. Let's not split hairs about it. But still, there's just something about it that I love this figure so much, and they did such a great job. I'll say this. It's definitely the best Splinter that Playmates has made. It might not be quite as great as some of the NECA Splinter figures, but as far as what Playmates has done with Splinter, this is the best one I've ever had. This is a great figure. And I love how much shorter he is than the boys. Like, again, next to Michelangelo here, you can see Michelangelo's like quite a bit taller than him. But that's as it ought to be. You remember the piece of artwork where you see the boys when they were really young walking along with Splinter, and he's like their father, and he's kind of got his arms around them like he's protecting them. And then the one below it is the boys as teenagers, and they're walking alongside their master, their father figure, their sensei. And they've got their arms around him like they're protecting him, because now, like they said in Superman, the son becomes the father and the father becomes the son. And that's just a beautiful thing. I love the relationship that the boys have with Splinter and that Splinter has with the boys. And that's, to me, that's just kind of one of those things where like that's kind of the emotional core of the whole thing. And that's what, like, as a kid, I liked that stuff and I appreciated it. But you get to be an adult and you look back on your own life and you get to appreciate that stuff even more as a grown up than you did as a kid. You know what I mean? So that's something really special. Anyway, thanks you guys for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure that you like and subscribe and all the YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. I like it when you leave comments. YouTube likes it when you say like and subscribe. MHD says, thanks for review. Sleep tight. Oh, I definitely will. Earth Dude says, take care, Alan Dude. You take care of yourself. Like, always good to see you guys. MHD and Earth Dude and Bobby Wald. Always good to see you guys. Shout out to anybody who's going to be watching this in replay, like Rouge Haunts or Lone Dragon or any of my other regulars. You guys know who you are. I always like hearing from you. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about these figures and the characters in general, and some of your memories of the Ninja Turtles over the years, and what your favorite movies and TV shows and all that kind of stuff were featuring them. But yeah, I always loved the original Playmates figures. I always thought they did a great job with the original Playmates figures, and these are just kind of like those, but kind of bumped up to the next level, like it says on the package. It's 1988 remastered, and we'll get one more shot of my favorite of the Ninja Turtles, Raphael, and that'll be it for tonight. Next episode, I'm not sure when the next episode will be because I'm probably going to go visit my mother tomorrow. Well, I'm going to be, tomorrow I'll be visiting my mother. So, and I'm not sure when I'm going to get back. So, but next episode, I'm probably going to do some He-Man stuff because we definitely got a lot of He-Man stuff. And I was supposed to start on the He-Man stuff like 2 episodes ago, but Ninja Turtles keep popping up. But that's fine. I open way more He-Man stuff than I do Ninja Turtles anyway. So it's nice to have some actual Ninja Turtles to open when I'm opening up Ninja Turtle action figures. So we'll have more in the future too. So but that's it for now. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time. Bye. End stream.